2 years ago, I convinced my wife to let me buy this sawmill. When it showed up on our doorstep, I had zero experience running a sawmill, barely knew how to run a chainsaw, yet here we are. Here are the 3 reasons I gave her on why we should spend our hard-earned money on one of these. Welcome to Mac Jackal. The first justification on why you should buy a sawmill is the most popular one. I told my wife, we are surrounded by hardwood timber. Imagine building our own home from our own land. We've got white pine up in the corner. We could build a timber frame home out of white pine. We could make hardwood floors out of ash, cherry bookshelves, oak cabinets, whatever. I was selling the dream. That's a pretty ambitious goal for someone with as little woodworking experience as me, but that's the dream. Build our own home with our own wood from our own land. While I dream of building our future home, I've been taking on other projects like this office build here. As you can see, we've got this post here, there's another one in front of me, and a beam over my head. That was all milled on the mill. Below my feet are floor joists made on the mill, and up here you can see the loft. All that wood was made on the sawmill, and that's a good way to practice for the bigger project that I want to do, which is building our dream home. In fact, I even did some timber frame joinery to keep practicing. You might not want to build your own home, but there's so many other things you could do with this useful tool. Maybe you want to build a chicken coop or a workshop. If you're really ambitious, you want to build a barn. Maybe you've got a homestead or you bought a property with a bunch of rundown outbuildings, something like this, and you want to do some restoration. Of course, all these old buildings probably have oddball size studs and 2x4s and 4x4s. You can cut all that on your sawmill, whatever size you need. You can make the siding, make doors. Imagine you had a property with a historic barn that you wanted to restore. You could cut all the wood yourself. So if you're the type of person that has big dreams, is super ambitious, maybe a sawmill is right for you because you can do all that with a sawmill. With a sawmill, you can make things like benches, gates, fence posts, you name it. One thing I want to do is, this land is full of deep ravines, so I want to make some really cool wood walking bridges just to give us easy access to all the parts of the property. If you're a carpenter, you're gonna love my second justification on why you should buy a sawmill. Sometimes it can be hard to find that perfect piece of wood for your carpentry projects. If you've got your own sawmill, you can cut your own slabs, dry them, make those beautiful conference tables and sell them. Of course, you can just go to your local lumber yard, but maybe you don't have many good ones in your area, or you just like to control as many variables as possible. A sawmill is a great option for this. To be clear, I'm not suggesting that milling your own wood is always the most affordable or the right option. There's so much that goes into milling, drying, kiln drying your own wood. But if you like to control every variable, it is a good option. Every time I cut into a piece of wood, I get super excited. You look in there and you see ray fleck and different grain patterns and knots, and I just love it. It's addicting. For example, look at these beautiful pieces of cherry that I cut recently. I want to make bookshelves for the office, and I can already picture them filled with books. Speaking of books, I'm actually currently writing a book about everything that I learned when I bought my own mill, working for a guy with 30+ years of sawmill experience, things I wish I knew. It's all going to go in this book. So if you have any suggestions or questions that you would like to see in a book like that, put it in the comments. The more of that I get, the better this book will be. The crazy thing is I'm writing this book through this YouTube channel by basically taking the videos I make, all the comments I get, and I'm kind of compiling that and trying to think about everything I wish I knew before I bought a sawmill so I can put it all in a book for you guys. Okay, now here's the third justification I gave my wife. Like I mentioned earlier, I work for a guy with 30+ years of sawmill experience. He makes his money 3 ways. He mills for other people, he mills, dries the wood, and sells the wood to other people, and he also is a carpenter, so he mills his own wood, lets it dry, and then sells that. As you can see, there are a few ways to make money with a sawmill. Milling for other people is the quickest way to get started. It's usually the lowest pay with the highest labor, but there's always people out there that will want to give you money to mill wood for them. At my day job, we've cut wood for so many different types of customers. We've cut fence posts for construction companies. We've made planks for rebuilding trailers or like the side of a flatbed. We actually cut a bunch of white pine so someone could re-side an entire barn that they're restoring. Recently, we actually cut cottonwood boards for an Amish family moved in and they're putting in a barn. Apparently, I didn't know this, horses don't chew on cottonwood. So that was something unique. Turns out cottonwood's actually pretty beautiful. Didn't know that. People kind of look at it as a junk wood, I mean, there's one right behind me right now, but when I cut into that, I was actually pretty impressed by how beautiful that wood really was. On top of all of that, I've cut a lot of slabs for carpenters, artists, people making cutting boards, people just making all kinds of crazy things. There's a lot of craftsmen out there that are doing really cool stuff, and getting to talk to the customers and kind of get inspired by what they're doing, because they're always excited to talk about the projects they're working on. So it's been really fun to be a part of that, and it inspires me to go home to my mill and make my own things as well. That's something I didn't expect when I got into the sawmill business, is all the cool people you'll meet doing cool things with wood. By the way, if you're still not sure if you should buy a sawmill or not, but you're kicking it around, I would highly suggest just go work for someone with a mill. You'll learn a ton. You'll also figure out if this is really something you want to invest a lot of time and energy into, and money, because these things take a ton of time. I would have personally avoided a ton of mistakes, and honestly might have even bought a different mill if I would have worked for this guy before I bought this mill. So I definitely suggest get out there and work for someone first. You'll learn so much, because my first 6 months owning this thing was just me shooting in the dark, trying to figure it out. And 1 week with that guy, and I had already learned more than I did in 6 months on my own. I also really lucked out with this guy. He's super cool, super easy to get along with. He's willing to teach me everything. He also built his own house out of an old barn, kind of what I want to do, so it just kind of worked out perfect. I mean, best decision I made was to say yes when he asked if I wanted to work with him. Another interesting way to start a sawmill business is to cut your own wood, dry it, and sell the wood. This is more lucrative, but also a lot harder to do because it takes a lot more time and overhead and experience. Turns out drying wood is an art form in itself. If you're going to dry wood, it means you have to sell wood, so you have to know how to sell, because you could have a building full of beautiful pieces of wood, but if nobody knows about it, it's going to be hard to sell wood and make a living. One thing is, a lot of people are going to want kiln-dried wood. They don't want to buy something and risk there being bugs in it. They want to know that it's high quality, so it takes time to get that trust. There's a lot more upfront cost from time and money invested into drying wood. And then once you've kiln-dried the wood, you've got to have a climate-controlled space to store it in, because you can't kiln-dry it and then just set it back outside or in an uncontrolled space, or it'll just suck the moisture back in. But of course, if you can master that, you can sell it at a premium and make some really nice money that way. There are also a lot of niche businesses out there. I'm talking about cutting small pieces of wood for people who carve, specific specialty woods for people making tool handles, or one that we just did was cutting persimmon for people making turkey calls, turkey reeds. I didn't know that was a thing. I actually want to do a whole video series exploring these different niches and trying them out, seeing if I can make money doing that. So if you've got any ideas that you want to see me try to do, or stuff you've been thinking about but just haven't done, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll try it out and you'll see it in a future video. And another way to make money, of course, is to use it for your own carpentry. The guy I work for actually makes caskets and sells them. He cuts his own wood out of cedar and pine and then dries it and then makes beautiful caskets. As they say, the riches are in the niches. If you've already justified buying a sawmill for yourself, then you're ready for the next step. Which sawmill should you buy? If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.